Well, look at this, guys. Isn't this cool? So Thamba is here as well at Twin Dams. He waited for the Ellies to go, and now he has taught him that he needs to be very careful of crocodiles. And it's interesting to see the difference between him and potentially Shongile and Hosana when they were the same age as what Thamba was. They had an incident with a crocodile here at Twin Dams that Brent was involved with, and Kruger came and was trying to lead the cubs away and show them that this is a dangerous area. And so you can see with Thamba, he's already had that lesson at some point, because otherwise he would have been right on the fringes of that mud and drinking out of the main part of the dam instead of that little puddle that's just separated off slightly. Now that little puddle would have been caused by Ellies drinking. So he would have been drinking because the Ellies have now played around and they've pushed the water into a little footwell of maybe another elephant, and that's why he's drinking. Now, I believe there is a bit of a picture breakup and freezing every now and then. I do apologize. It is live. It is in the middle of the bush, and these things do happen at some stage. We're also busy trying to fix some of our towers. We're doing a bit of a move onto Chitwa's towers so that we can actually get better coverage over Chitwa and hopefully even the Mulawati and Twin Dams area. So that's why there might be a bit of signal breakup, but I do apologize about it, and hopefully, even if it's a breaking up and freezing every now and then, the fact that we're seeing beautiful golden, black and spots at the edge of a waterhole will be enough for you to all be happy and to enjoy the beauty that is our favorite. Like I say, his coat is gold in color. He's got these green eyes and this kind of wide face with these dark black eyes and markings around the eyes, and he's just absolutely fantastic, and I thoroughly enjoyed. Oh, look at that. You are beautiful, my boy. I've really enjoyed spending as much quality time as we have over the last few weeks and months. It's been incredible. If I think when I first started here, Thamba was a bit of a myth for our presenters. You know, Brent and James and Taylor, hadn't even seen him until recently. And now he seems to be a cat that we really see more often than any others. We're seeing him a lot. Look at him. He's growing into an absolutely beautiful boy. Big shoulders. You can see he's getting a nice thick neck. And somebody was asking this morning, I can't remember, I do apologize, I am getting a little bit old, he was asking me about whether or not he's got a dewlap yet, and you can see not quite. His neck, there's a bit of skin that's sagging a little bit, but not much, so he doesn't actually have a dewlap just yet, but it is coming slowly but surely. Now the problem is he is moving southwards, so I'm hoping that he's not going to cross over the main road and we're going to get to spend more of the afternoon. But look at that coat in the light. Isn't that beautiful? Are you going to lie down there for us, please do. Oh, wonderful. It doesn't get any better than that. There is not a single blade of grass in front of him. He's watching over the dam. That is as good as it gets, for sure. Are you feeling better now? Yes, we've had a lot of... Carsten from Denmark, oh, there he is, he's posing. He heard you, Carsten. He said that he's the most handsome leopard that we see. So he's just giving you his best side. He was giving you his cheeks and just showing you both sides so that you can see all of him. And no, I'm just joking. He was just glancing over his shoulder because there's a bit of a breeze that's blowing, and it is coming from the north, so that's maybe what he picked up, a bit of a scent, or he can hear those ellies moving off, and that's why he just turned slightly. But he is most certainly, for me, one of the most beautiful male leopards I've ever seen. I know that everybody gets attached to young male leopards. It's a weird phenomenon in the guiding industry. Most of the guides do get attached to these young males, but for me, he really is. There's something about him that, I don't know, I just like. And that's not to say that Hosana is not in his own right on those eyes that just makes him very striking to look at. And so seldom is he sitting still for long periods of time, and I quite like that about him. He's not always just doing nothing. It seems as though when you're with him, you always get quality sightings. So that's why I enjoy spending time with this little fella. Now, where are you off to now? You can't go inside there. You can see there's a bit of an eroded section that he's found himself. Maybe it's a bit cooler inside there. The sun hasn't absorbed and shone. he's just sniffing around there. I wonder if maybe Tundi hasn't been here at some... Look at the size of his paws as well. That's something that is one of the most noticeable. Is it another leopard? And you'll be able to work out exactly what's going on. Yes, I think you must lie down there. That's the best place for you. It's cool, it's in the shade, you look good. Now, while we sit and enjoy Thamba and gloat in our victory, let's go over to Brent, who, well, still hasn't found a cat, and once again, Brent, you've fallen behind. Look at that. How beautiful. I don't think there is many things in this world prettier than the face of a beautiful leopard. Now, he is a particularly good-looking specimen, but not one leopard, when you see them at that sort of picture and when they're looking dead on at you, is not pretty. They're all pretty when they look at you like that. Now, James, you're saying the sleek and slender Thamba. Well, he's not so sleek at the moment. He's got a little paunch on him. You see his little belly there? There's quite a bulge that's going on, so he's obviously got some meal last night. If the hyenas did steal something, he definitely got a little bit, because he's certainly not skinny at this stage of the game. He's looking fit and healthy and as good as a young male leopard of a year-old could look. He really is looking fantastic at the moment, so he's a beautiful, beautiful example of a leopard. And you can see he's just watching the three-banded plovers on the edge of the shore. That's what he's busy watching at the moment. A little plover that's pecking around for water, for food on the edges of the water. There it is. It's just over there. So he's just busy watching it as it moves around and keeping him well and truly entertained. So he's a leopard that doesn't sleep as much as other leopards I've seen. He tends to watch everything. Anything that moves catches his eyes. He looks at. It takes a lot for him to actually fall asleep properly. He tends to like seeing what's going on around him and listening and looking and taking the world in. See, look there, he's watching it fly away. I'm sorry, did it leave you behind, boy? Oh, little biting flies as well. They are quite bad this afternoon. Even this morning, they were driving me crazy. So I can imagine what they must be doing for him as well, particularly if he's got any semblance of smell around his muzzle or any moisture around his nostrils or his mouth. That's going to cause those biting flies to come land and cause havoc with him. This morning, we had him so close that at one stage we could actually see all the flies landing on his nose and watch him kind of shake them off. And so I would imagine we'll see the same thing. Just now he was trying to catch them. There we go. So you can see he's trying to catch them. Shame up, boy. Are they irritating you? Oh. You are a character. You know that. Wow. We are spoilt. I was just saying to Seb now, we get super, super spoiled here in the Sabi Sands. I don't think, sometimes we take this for granted, to sit not even 10 meters away from a wild leopard, watch it catching flies, watching birds coming past, drinking, and for it to be that relaxed out in the open is a very, very special privilege, and it really is the best job in the world when would weigh. In this particular area, we have some of the heaviest leopards in the world, as well as in parts of India. There's some very big ones there, and those leopards will weigh in excess of 180 to 200 pounds. That would be about the biggest. The heaviest on record, as far as I know, is 97 kilograms, so that would be about 210 pounds, maybe a little bit more than that. So that's wild leopard, that's not the zoo leopard. And if we had females, your heavier females are weighing about 100 to 120 pounds at the most. So the female's much smaller, but look at the size of his paws. Now, he will eventually weigh probably close to 180 pounds, because if you look at those paws, he's got to grow into them, and he's definitely going to be monstrous. And it really is interesting following his paw. I don't know if he's going to be the tallest leopard, but he's going to be very thick-set and heavily built. It'll be, I hope, no matter where he goes, that I will be able to follow his his mother has left him. No, his mother has but she's also now knows that he can start taking care of himself. He's able to climb, he's big enough to look after himself and even hunt for himself, theoretically. So she spends long periods of time away. She was with him last night. They were walking together, and we had her tracks this morning where he question was, it was, has his mother left him alone, and is he on his own now? No, he's not. His mother is still around. They were seen together last night, but he is bigger and he's able to look after himself now. He's able to even feed himself and fend for himself, so she can spend longer periods of time away. Also, because he is bigger, she needs to hunt more frequently than what she was previously, because, well, she's got to feed not only herself, but this growing, massive individual that is Thamba. So she's going to be having to feed basically an individual that's larger than her as well as herself. So it spends a lot more time hunting, and her time with Thamba is less and less frequent as time goes on. Months and 2 years. Currently, Thamba is around a year old. He's just over a year old, actually a year and a month, so he's 13 months old at the moment. So he's still should stay with mom for a little bit longer, but theoretically he's almost in that average span, and she has been mating recently, so if she's fallen pregnant, then it will potentially leave her. Now, we're talking about mating and her going into estrus cycles. It sounds like James is with two felines that are busy in the act as we speak. Now, our little Thamba is such a character. He's really making me laugh this afternoon because he's trying to hunt francolins and go incognito by hiding in an erosion dip, but he's not doing very well at all. There's the francolins there, and look at how he's watching them over and above. But the problem with him is his tail's sticking out, and he keeps moving his tail with excitement, and that gives it away completely. So the white tip of his tail keeps giving him away, and the francolins keep running off. If he just sat still and kept his tail still, he would be absolutely fine. There we go. You see, he's trying to hide himself, and he has the right idea. But unfortunately, he's just being completely betrayed by the mind that is the tail. It seems as though they do have their own mind. You see that little tip, when it does that, the francolins see it immediately, and they give him trouble for it. So it's very funny to watch. He can't seem to keep it under control. And you can hear the francolin making a noise. The emerald-spotted wood dove. Are you going to be like your cousin Shivambalan and grab a wood dove? Shivambalan's name came from catching one of those wood doves. That's what he caught. He was sitting on top of a termite mound. There it is, the emerald-spotted wood dove. And this wood dove came flying past, and he jumped up and grabbed it, and that's where he got his name. So maybe Thamba will be like his cousin and grab it as well. Well, I suppose not as his cousin. Look at how he's watching. He's almost got those sad eyes as though somebody help me. Shame boy, are the birds giving you trouble? Are they tormenting you today? Yes, don't worry. He's such a character. Like I say, he never stops looking around. He's always got his eyes shifting somewhere, and you can see he's almost watching that wood dove out the corner of his eye. Come closer, I dare you. Look, there he goes, he's watching it. And the wood dove is just in front of him. There's the wood dove. but there's no cover for him from there, so he's got really no chance, unfortunately, to grab that dove. You silly cat. And he's torn between the francolin and the wood dove. So the francolins are moving up on top near where I am now, and the wood dove closer to him, and I think he's not sure which one you'd rather go for at this stage. They both are moving around and bobbing around and seem as though they're tantalizingly close, but unfortunately still too far away for a chunky leopard like that. The birds will be flying long before he gets anywhere near them. Don't look at me like I'm talking nonsense about you. You know I'm right. But look at that stare. Mary, you say there's so much gold colour on him. I know, he's very gold. He's got a nice, deep, rich golden colour, and I've been dying to see Thamba in really late afternoon golden light. I think he would look absolutely spectacular on a big marula tree or even on a termite mound in really good light. He seems to always get him behind some foliage in the good light, so I'm looking forward to the day that we see him lounging somewhere like this but bathed in golden light, just to see how much gold that coat really has. I know at some stages this morning we did see him in fairly decent light, and he really was very gold, but I want to see him in really rich late afternoon kind of reddish light and just see how that whole coat pops and becomes that much more colourful. Paula, wondering if leopards frequently hunt birds? Most definitely, Paula. Leopards probably have the most diverse amount of food items on the menu. They will hunt everything from insects all the way up to baby elephants. So giraffe, any of the antelope species, like I say, insects, birds, small mammals, rodents, snakes, you name it, they are happy to feed off it. And that's why leopards are so widely distributed. You find them in mountainous areas, desert areas, savannas, riverine thickets, forests. It doesn't really matter in Africa. They will be able to make a plan, and even in cities they will be able to inhabit those areas and stay there. So they are easily able to survive on anything, and that's why they'll go after birds, particularly young leopards like this. A bird is a perfect prey animal because it teaches them a lot of how to hunt. It teaches them how to go about hunting, how to grab certain prey animals. Are you bored, Thamba? And be able to stalk and learn their pattern, because birds are quite flighty animals, so to speak, excuse the pun, but they are animals that are, any little sound or movement, they're off and they're gone. Oh, your eyes. And so they're the perfect species or perfect thing to practice on in order to try and perfect your hunting technique as a young leopard. So you find young leopards do go after them a lot. And you can see he's hot. He's obviously, that's in that little gully, there's no wind, and that means that he's absorbed a lot of heat there, and that's why he's starting to pant a little bit, so mouth open and his breathing getting a little faster, just to be able to try and cool that body down. Shame, it must have been quite an uncomfortable day for him. It's been a while since it's been this warm. So I'm sure he's had a tough day at the office, so to speak. How's that, though? Sprawled out and relaxed on the edge of the water. It doesn't get much better than that in terms of viewing. Mandy, you say Thamba is so expressive. Well, I agree, Mandy. There's something about him. He's almost like there's an intelligence and an intrigue that he has, and his eyes are always looking and they're analysing, and it seems as though he's quite on top of his surroundings. He knows what's going on around him. He picks things up fairly early, so he's quite intriguing to watch. And like I say, his eyes are full of something. I don't know, there's emotion behind those eyes. You're watching the birds again, my boy. There's a little three-banded plover that's just flown past. So it's lots of emotion that I find behind his eyes, and they're intriguing to me. He almost captivates you when he looks at you. So an absolute pleasure to spend time with him. But what was amazing is when Seb went out there, just how well a leopard blends in. So we often say that leopards are animals that can hide in plain sight. Now in an area like this, it's completely open. As you can see, there's no vegetation whatsoever. But when Seb comes out like that, look at how quickly that animal blends into its environment. Now you can imagine if it's lying flat with its head down, how that spotted pattern actually blends in with that dappled light on the mud. You've got lighter, darker sections, and it really does blend in very well. So even when there's no vegetation, a leopard is an animal that is quite tough to spot. So you've got to keep your wits about you and really use your eyes quite cleverly when looking for leopards. And you've got to try and use those white markings on the belly area and the tail because that often gives them away more than anything else. But he's certainly putting on a show this afternoon. I reckon this is probably one of the best sightings we've had of him, and just in terms of he's completely relaxed, he's out in the open, we haven't had to bash around. This morning was just so epic because of his time spent with the elephants and watching him go about slinking around the ellies, and it seems as though maybe he followed the ellies around because he's right back where the ellies were when we found them this afternoon. But it was amazing to watch him. But this afternoon is just special because we're spending quality time and we're not having to look at that. Renee, you're wondering if Thamba and Shongile would mate even though they're distant relations. Well, if Thamba potentially became dominant within this area, then most certainly they would. I've seen fathers mating with daughters, so Anderson, if he potentially stays dominant, he's going to mate with Tiani, and Tiani is his daughter, so that does happen from time to time that relatives will mate. It's highly uncommon in this age group because generally the young males are pushed out and will become nomadic, so they are forced into different areas and away from the bloodline of the females, and therefore they're not inbreeding. That's how it's supposed to work. But if you take Quarantine, for example, Quarantine is right here on the east. Now, hypothetically, with Tingana getting older, Quarantine still being quite young, there's every likelihood that Quarantine could push west and push Tingana out of his territory, so it is possible that they could mate. Now, I believe James has got his lines that we're not only fornicating. Sorry about those issues. We have a few gremlins in both Djuma and at the Mara, but how exciting an afternoon has it been. Not only we had ellies, we've had leopard, we've had Brent out and about, which is always exciting to see, and well, we've had James just make that kill, which is absolutely incredible. I'm a little bit jealous of those guys sometimes because they're seeing such incredible things when it comes to hunting behavior and the way that these guys are, the way that the lions and the cheetahs are utilizing that migration to the fullest effect. It really is something incredible to watch, and I find myself watching lots of videos out of the Mara, and it really is quite something. I know we get spoiled with the leopards and we get to spend so much time with them, and I'm very thankful for that, but like I said, it is really amazing just to watch and to see how these animals go about their business in the Masai Mara. So I'm sure James is grinning from ear to ear after seeing that. I know James has been loving every minute of his time in Kenya, so I'm glad that they've had a good time, and they really have done so well. All the staff there has put in massive amounts of work and massive amounts of hours to show us the most incredible sights from one of the world's most amazing destinations. So hopefully it will continue, and hopefully the guys will have a really good run towards the end of the TV shows. Not too many left now, and they've done a sterling effort so far, so I hope that it continues onward and upward, as we would say, into the future. So really it has been a sterling effort from everybody that's been involved in the Mara side. Little Thamba is still a bit sleepy, and the best part about this is that we're sitting all by ourselves at Twin Dams. There's not another single person around, and we've got a leopard all to ourselves. Is that not a special moment in life? You can see he's just at the corner of the dam. We've got that view to gaze upon. I'm hoping that maybe because it's been a warm day this afternoon, we might get some antelopes creeping down into the corner here, and maybe little Thamba will get his chance to stalk some of the antelopes from where he's lying. So that's why we're just going to stay with him and give it our best shot and see if he isn't going to just spend a little bit more time and be patient enough to wait for an animal to come down. This time of the day we often find things like impala and nyala coming to Twin Dam, so I'm hoping for his sake that one of those do arrive. Or his mum. I was just saying to Seb, no, wouldn't it be spectacular if Tundi came striding across the dam wall straight to him and we had a reunion of the two of them. But I love how he's lying now with his kind of head down and that tail curled in a little kink at the back there, almost like a shepherd's hook at the back, and just completely relaxed. Big paws in front, and even his back paws are massive. If you look at the size of that in comparison to his face, you'll get an idea of just how large those paws may be. And in terms of a size in relation to us as humans, it would be about the same size as, I would say, 3/4 of my hand. That would be about the size of those paws at the moment, which is massive. They are huge, 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 and they really are going to be perfect for life. When he becomes a dominant male, he's certainly going to be giving a lot of other males a hard time with those paws if he has to use them. But I'm hoping, like I was saying earlier, that wherever he ends up, that we'll be able to follow him. Hopefully he doesn't go too far and disappears and we can't see his progress as he becomes a big territorial male, because I think wherever he goes, they're in for a treat and they're going to be spoilt by not only a beautiful cat, but a very relaxed one too. Getting sleepy now. So enough of the stalking and drinking and entertaining. It's now time to have a little bit of a break and a little sleep. And our run of leopard and elephant luck continues. Sebastian, I think it must be you. Although Senzo's also had a bit of luck, the two of you are very lucky when it comes to both these animals. We were talking about sightings that Seb and I have shared. Seb and I have had some crazy sightings with elephants. It seems as though whenever Seb's with me, we get these really cool sightings of elephants all around the car, and it's very, very cool to work with somebody who enjoys it just as much as I do. Now, Paul, you're wondering how fast this leopard could run. Well, a leopard generally is doing about 60 kilometers an hour. They have recorded them as much as 70, but in terrain like the Sabi Sands, where it's dense and thick, it's very seldom that they're going to be getting up to that speed. Let's also remember with leopards, and unlike the cheetahs or even the lions and the mara that are running quite big distances to chase down their prey, leopards are ambush predators. So they like these dense, thick areas where they'll get into a place, they'll calculate where an animal's moving, and they basically position themselves that the animal walks straight to them. And then they wait for that animal to get within 3-4 meters, and they have that explosive speed off the mark with those big, powerful back legs and front legs that will pull themselves off the mark, and they surprise that animal and onto it like a flash, and that's how they hunt. Very seldom will a leopard be successful if it runs from a big distance. The only leopard I've ever seen successful in that regard was Mvula on Chitwa airstrip, where he chased down an impala from about 50 meters away, which was absolutely unbelievable. It was only because the impalas completely panicked. I don't think they're used to being hunted in that way, and they all panicked, and one ran straight at him, and he got to about 40 meters and it ran literally into him, and he just grabbed it and then went down with it. So it's the only leopard I've ever seen manage a cheetah lion type chase, if you want to call it to that. The rest of them are all ambush predators that lie and wait in thick, dense vegetation, and that's the best time for them to hunt and places to hunt. Out here in a big dam like this, very seldom that you're going to see a leopard being able to be successful. There's not enough brush here, unless he was in one of these little pockets of bush that we see around the dam, and he sits there for long enough that a prey animal comes along. But lying out in the open like this, he's probably got very little chance. Impalas and kudus and nyalas and all the other species that are on the menu would probably spot him from quite far away. What are you watching now? I'm sure he's still watching various birds that are on the edges of the water. There's, like I say, a few little three-banded plovers walking around, and there'll be some thick knees starting to come down just now as the sun is now set. You're going to find the thick knees are going to move towards the edge of the water. There will be a few lapwings around. And I'm surprised there's no Egyptian geese shouting at him. Maybe he's chased those already today. And there's also no monitor lizard either. And I was really hoping there was going to be monitor lizards at our little lair, the Love Lair that we had a few months ago, which is just to the left there. And for those of you that know the Love Lair, that's it over there. And look at how much the water has dropped. So I can't remember when exactly that was, but it wasn't long ago. That was at the edge of the water when we were watching it. The monitor lizards were going in there and the water was slightly below, but not much. Now you can see that the water has really dropped quite some way from that particular hole. But no sign of the around the Chitwa Dam. Now, Alice, if you can just repeat the name for me. Sorry, I did forget the name. I know that it was something about cheetah. HKP, that's right. You wanted to know at how far, well, isn't the cheetah the fastest? Yes, the cheetah is the fastest of the land mammals. The cheetah has been recorded in captivity is running close to 120 kilometers an hour, but generally in the wilds of the Masai Mara and places like that, they're going to get to about 100, 110 kilometers. So that is absolutely lightning fast. It's almost 80 miles an hour, and these guys really, really burn it. And I'm sure if you keep watching the show and you watch the times that they move, it is quite something to watch. So they really are the quickest of the quick, and certainly keep a lot of the animals on that side on their toes. Problem with them is being so fast is that they, unfortunately, are not able to compete with any of the others. So things like leopard, lion, and even hyenas dominate cheetah to a large degree, and so they don't thrive in areas like this. It's dense, it's thick, and then the number of other predators make it very difficult for the cheetah in this area. And so that's why we don't have the same numbers as what the Mara Serengeti system has got. Shame, the flies are driving him mad, and they're driving me a bit mad too. Biting flies are probably one of the most irritating things, because what they do is they land on you, and then slowly but surely, it's almost like somebody had to take your skin and inch by inch would just increase the pressure until it really hurt all of a sudden. And that's what a biting fly feels like. It's like a slow increase of pressure until it really is very painful, and you end up slapping yourself because it hurts, and then they fly off probably pretty amused with themselves and then land again on you a bit later. So I can feel and sympathize for Thamba with all the flies that are around, and I'm hoping they're not going to bug him too much longer. Now it's getting dark, hopefully they should ease off, and he'll have at least a bit more of a restful evening than he's had during today. Although we know he's going to wake up shortly, because it's now the time that leopards are most active, around this dusk period. So they are crepuscular animals more than they are nocturnal, which means that they're active more around these sort of sunset, sunrise periods, and the hours before and after those than they are during the middle of the day or middle of the night. Now, we're still with Thamba, who is a beautiful vista for us here at Djuma, but I believe Brent is in the Mara, and well, there's not many places in the world. Well, James Henry, it seems as though you are having the most incredible afternoon in the Masai Mara, and I don't think you could ask for anything more than that. That's absolutely insane what he's experienced this afternoon, and like I say, a little jealous. But our little Thamba, since you've been gone, is... There you go. Well, we're still sitting here with Thamba, and look at that. Is that not just the most magnificent setting? He's sitting atop a termite mound at the moment, and he's just watching the ongoings of what's happening. It is beautiful. We've got the dawn colours in the background, and little Thamba just watching what's going on. Wow, that is as special as it gets. And he's probably no more than, I would say, at the moment, 3-4 meters from where we're standing. Or sitting, should I say. We're not standing, we're in a car, so we wouldn't be standing at all. But look at the pinks behind him. Wow, what a special sighting. You have spoilt us today, Thamba. All of us. All of you at home, and, well, myself and Sebastian too. Jeez, you see, he's just sniffing the air a little bit. Now he's going to come down. You'll be able to see just how close he is as he comes down, because he's going to walk in front, past the car. There he goes. So that is as good as it will ever get when it comes to a leopard. Thank you. So we've had everything from him today. We've had him stalking, we've had him drinking, we've had him in mounds. The only thing left is for him to climb a tree. Well, and considering that he's moving around all over the place, I suppose that's not too much to ask, actually, at this stage. He seems as though he is going to investigate everywhere, and trees are not beyond the realm of investigation at this stage. Now, Sebastian, just careful your head as we go underneath here. I almost said careful your hair, but it's because Sebastian does have quite long hair, but I didn't really mean his hair, I meant his head. And careful the camera. You good there, Sebastian? Yeah, very good. Excellent. Now, so it sounds like both James and Brent are having a little bit of a tough time when it comes to a big storm that is coming to the Masai Mara, and so, well, I think you guys are going to be with me for the foreseeable future, which hopefully you won't mind as we follow little Thamba through the thickets and move around and see where he happens to head off to. He is slowly mobile north, which is fantastic news, because he's not then heading out of our traverse, so we'll be able to stay with him. And our patience of sitting with him at the dam and waiting for him to get moving is now paying off, because he's now on his way and is slowly but surely walking. And I really want to stay with him, because this will give me a lot of insight as to where he moves around. Now, a lot of you wonder about the tracking processes that we do. This kind of thing is a huge part of our tracking processes, because as he moves around, I'm able then to see where he walks, and he'll generally follow walking walking around like this. So it is the perfect place to look and to be able to see what's going on. So hopefully he'll unlock some of the mysteries that is tracking Thamba, because we haven't had a chance to track him too much. And interesting enough, this morning as well was very sort of good to see that he didn't run away from trackers. But before we get into that, look at how those white markings on the tip of the tail and the ears stand out in even this dingy light. You can see it's getting dark, it's getting a little bit sort of difficult to see, but those two white spots on the ears and the tail really stand out, and so it makes it much easier for him to follow his mom, or for his mom to see him, and for them to be able to follow one another. So those following signals are hugely important and hugely visible, even in horrible, dingy, dark light like what we've got now. Now, unfortunately, we can't really switch into IR just yet because we don't have our IR light on. We got caught a little bit unawares with James and Brent hunkering down. So what we'll do is we'll have to, at some point, hopefully he goes a little bit static and you might see a bit of a wobble on the camera and hear a bit of noise, but we'll put our IR lights on so that I don't have to shine too many lights on Thamba himself. I ideally don't want to make him get full of light and... Okay, so Seb says that we can do it without putting on the lights as long as he's not too far. Well, Seb, the way that he's walking around the car this evening, I don't think we have to worry too much. There we go. So we're going to go into IR now so that we can see a little bit better, because it is getting a bit dark for the normal camera. Riedel, you want to know if Thamba is as big as Tundi yet? Most definitely. I think they are of similar size now. I haven't seen the two of them walk together for quite some time, but just looking at him, and I saw Tundi here last night, so it would be, to my eye, that they look very similar. He might be slightly shorter, but I think he probably weighs more than what she does already. Now off to the Mulawati we go, which is not exactly ideal. Although, the good news is that apparently our additions to the Chitwa mast, they're picking us up loud and clear from there, which means that hopefully we will have much better coverage in the Mulawati. And certainly Chitwa Dam is now no longer going to be the gremlin minefield. We've come guns blazing and we've now chased those gremlins away from that area, so we should be able to spend a lot more quality time at Chitwa Dam without having to worry too much. And the same hopefully will ring true for the Mulawati as well. Monique in London. Hello, Monique. And, well, I actually met Monique a few days ago. Monique was here in South Africa on a trip and she was at Djuma. So, hello, Monique. I hope you had a safe travel home and that you are still on a high from your trip and from being here. And you want to know if Thamba is my favorite leopard. Well, Monique, we shared a sighting together of Thamba when you were here, and yes, he is most definitely my favorite leopard. I absolutely love spending time with him. He is beautiful and, well, he's intriguing. He's always moving. He's always up to something, and so I certainly love spending time with him. He's my favorite of the male leopards, let's put it that way. I think of the younger generation, Anderson of the older generation, and Tundi of the female generation. Those are my three favorites. Monique and I were talking about the weather, because I always say to her that I hope it's not a bad day in London and that it's sunny and warm, and she always says to me that generally when I say that it's raining. So I hope it's not raining today, Monique, and that you're having a good day. But little Thamba's off on here. What have you spotted? Seems they spotted something, and I'm so surprised. This has got to be the first time that I've ever spent that long at Twin Dams and we haven't seen an impala come down to drink, or any animal whatsoever. Maybe Thamba's been hanging around all day and the animals just know that there's some sort of predator, and with Tundi being here last night and yesterday afternoon, maybe they're all a little bit cautious of what's going on at this stage, and that's why none came down to drink. But I'm so glad that he's moving north, because, well, it means that probably tomorrow morning, in all likelihood, we might be able to find him again, which is fantastic. Now, for all of you that watch the dam cam, before I forget, because I keep forgetting about this, there was monkeys alarm calling the whole day today around the lodge. There's elephants that have been vocalizing like they've seen something, so I would check the dam cam fairly regularly this evening. You never know, maybe Tundi ended up that side, or maybe there is some sign of another leopard that could be there. I know that Mvula and Tingana were seen yesterday on Arathusa, but you never know. Today's a new day, and they might have already by now crossed back towards Djuma. So good idea would be to watch the dam cam tonight. You never know, you might get lucky and we might get another cat on the dam cam for all of you. In terms of lion updates, no sign of the Agama Pride yet. Nobody's found them, so I think they've crossed into Manuleti. The Styx Pride is directly south of us on the Mulawati, and one of the Birmingham's with them, so they're all down that edge. No, don't go over there. You can go on top there and lie down. There we go. Okay, lie down there. No. So for him to go on top, I don't know, Seb, do you want to stay this side or go around the other side? There's not much space on the other side, so I think we're just going to stick with him on this side and try and get round. Although I don't know if I can get round. I keep forgetting now. Sitting down. Spotlight too much, so Seb, I'm sorry if the light bounces around, but there we go, that's better. Now I don't have to worry about the spotlights and shine it into his eyes. The floodlights work a lot better. This is fantastic. You can hear our elephant whinging in the distance again. I wonder if it's the same Ellie that was whinging earlier and complaining. There we go, nice screenshots as well with the dark background. So, Dina, you also were here last week. Hello, Dina. I hope you're well as well. And I see that you got back safely. I've seen lots of your pictures being posted online, and you got some really lovely photographs. And you say, have I noticed the heart-shaped marking on his front leg? Dina, to be honest, I haven't noticed it. If maybe you do have a picture of it, and if you can send it to me, I would love to actually see which leg and where exactly this heart shape is. Doesn't get better than this. He's walking straight towards us and he's going to lie down right there. This is so cool. I can never get tired of this. Ever, ever, ever. We really do have the best job in the whole world. Wow. Just when I thought he was going to disappear on us around the other side and I wasn't sure if we were going to follow him, he comes walking straight back to where I am and sits down right next to me, as if to say, well, you know what, you've been patient with me all afternoon, I'm going to just come and give you one last show. Also, he's sniffing around, maybe he can smell his mom on that particular plant. Seb, I'm going to move back just slightly, ever so slightly, just so that we don't have as much shadow on his leg area. Oh, look at that, Seb. That is absolutely spectacular. Now, I might take a little illegal photograph, maybe, just maybe, because, well, it's not going to be every day that we get to see special. Like I say, it would be nice to have him just sit and recline up there. Now, Aubrey's just wanting to find out where Thamba is, so I'm just going to quickly give him an update so that he knows. Aubrey. Aubrey. Yeah, Aubrey, Thamba's just static now. You know where they put this dagger from the from Twin Dams on the bank of the Mulawati on the western bank? He's just static on top of this dagger now. They phone me now. It's 5-5 visual. Very nice. So there we go. Let Aubrey know, which will help Aubrey, and he's got some photographers with him, so I would be happy to help him and to get him here. And ultimately, the only reason we're seeing Thamba today is because Aubrey and Tax managed to track him down this morning, so we'll repay the favor and just help them out and let them come into the area as well. Oh, look at the size of the paw though as he grooms it. What are you watching around for? Now, for those of you that want the beautiful screenshot. Hopefully he's going to open his eye at some point as he grooms, and that will be the business shot for sure. No, he's going to get up now, I think, and maybe potentially move on. Yep, there we go. He's posed enough for us now. He's decided, onward I'm going. Or are you going to sit on top there, rather? No, not sure yet. Yes, that's where we're going to sit, rather. Right, let's try and reposition. Cheryl, you're wondering if Thamba and Hosana ran into each other, would they interact? When was it? It was about... She apparently stole the kill from Thamba and Thandi and fed on it, and the two of them watched for a while, and then he had a full, and eventually Thamba came and he was able to get his full as well. So they have had an interactive experience already. Now we're not going to be able to get over here, so we're going to have to go back again, which is a bit of a shame. I thought maybe, just maybe, we could get through here, but it seems as though it's all the way. Now, Seb, can you see behind me? Because with this light on, I can't see a single thing. Can I keep turning left? Because I want to turn around straight. So, oh, there we go. That's actually all right, Seb. It's okay, we can stay right here because he's facing us. So nothing wrong with that. There we go. So there's our beautiful boy sitting on top of... No, don't face that way. Now hopefully he'll turn around and face us again. He's almost facing over the back end of this at the moment, just checking to see what's on the other side, which is, I suppose, fair enough. See if he will turn around eventually. But you can see how as the night has fallen, he's got a lot more active, he's listening, he's looking, and he's moving around, and he's gotten himself to a higher position. So since the night has fallen, up onto a mound, up onto this bank over here, where he can then at least have some height advantage to be able to see what's going on. Sky, the reason why they sit and groom themselves so much is because as they walk through this long grass, they tend to pick up things like ticks and mites, and so the grooming is to get rid of all of that. It's to keep the coat in good condition, keep their fur nice and clean, and get rid of any little bits of loose fur as well as any parasites that may potentially be on them, so that they stay as a healthy animal. Too many parasites and they could then potentially get quite ill, so much better for them to actually try and clean themselves as regularly as possible and keep themselves nice and healthy. You'll also find that if they fed on a carcass, there's bits of meat which rots and could potentially cause disease, so it's better for them to actually clean more often than not. I think he's decided that's where he's going to sleep for now. I don't think he's going to move too much just yet, unless there's a sound that stirs him. So if he hears maybe a potential prey animal, or if he hears mom, or if he hears other leopards, or potentially lions, that would probably be the only thing that's really going to wake him. I think for now, though, it's going to be more about just relaxing. John, you're asking if I think animals ever get bored. Most certainly. I think especially young animals like this, not so much your antelope species, because they tend to walk all day and they stay with the herds and their mothers, and they tend to move around a lot. But leopards and lions get left in places, and well, they're curious animals, they're exuberant, they're youthful, and if you're at a puppy or a kitten, you know they're playful, and they don't like being left for long periods of time, and so they do get bored. You can see it, and sometimes they sit with this little bit of a grumpy face and they wait. Find a carcass and feed, or any of those kind of things. So they do certainly, in my mind, show signs of boredom. It's not to say that they do get bored, but in my mind, that's what I think, is that they most certainly look like they get bored fairly regularly. Little Thamba, you're not going to face us again. I think he's given us such a good show this afternoon that we can't really grumble if he decides not to show his face for a while. Just little ears perking up. Maybe he'll turn his head again. Now, believe we've got screen freezes once again, so I do apologize. I'm sorry about that. Unfortunately, it's just me, so rather than going to the tech screen, we will have a few of these little freezes every now and then. Like I say, we are broadcasting this all the way to the Masai Mara before it's then sent to you guys, so because it's all out in the bush and we're in two very different countries all the way in East Africa, we've got a little bit of a breakup, so I do apologize about that. And hopefully you'll be able to bear with it and still enjoy the beauty that is Thamba on top of his castle in the darkness, and that you'll be as happy as I am to be with him. You can see his breathing rate is slowed right down. It's still a very warm evening for this time of the year. In fact, I haven't even put a jersey on properly yet. And Seb, it's very pleasant, isn't it?
Very.
So I believe you guys can see a heart shape on his left foreleg. Whereabouts, Alice? If you can point it out, or roughly tell me where you can see it. Oh, there it is. I can see it now. Yes, it is a heart. That's awesome. There we go. So from now on we can identify little Thamba by his heart on his leg. That is very cool. That's awesome. I've never noticed that before, but he has a perfect little heart on his leg there. So there we go. So now, no matter how much we see him, even if we can't see a head and we can see a leg, that will be forever an identifying feature for him, like Tingana with his little smiley face on his shoulder. Thamba's got a little heart. Does Hosanna have anything? I wonder if any of you guys can give me a leg marking for Hosanna. I wonder if the little prince has also got some sort of quirky little marking on his leg that we can use to ID him. Hosanna always just, I don't know why, I can see him from a long way away. He always looks fairly easy. He's got the butterfly on his forehead. That's how I remember him. There's those two markings that if you kind of, or a bow tie is also what I've heard people calling it. But that's the sort of giveaway. But I don't know of any markings on his leg like this that are quirky and quite entertaining. Lovely Laurie, you want to know why we don't chip the animals to make them easier to find? Well, there's a number of reasons for it. The biggest reason for me is that to chip an animal means we've got to interfere in its life. It means that we've got to dart it, we've got to then put it in, and really I don't think that's the way that we should be doing things. At the end of the day, these animals give so much to us as it is. We get to see them, we get to spend time with them. We've built up this relationship of trust where they don't move away from us because we're sitting with them and for long periods, and we don't hurt them and don't chase them away. That I think it would be sacrilege to break all of that by darting them and trying to chip them. Also, it would take away from the whole fun of and the eventual reward when you find an animal. That chipping one would just, I don't know, it would make it feel more like a zoo and would take away the absolute experience that is a safari and the way that we go about doing things in the world. Certainly makes it that much more worth it than just driving around and going, okay, I'm going to go to the lion now, then I'm going to go to the leopard, then I'm going to go to the cheetah, then I'm going to, you know, that to me is just, I might as well go to a zoo and walk around than to actually be in a wild place where animals are moving, you don't know where they're moving, and it's a chance of luck. That's how I see it. And I'm sure other people might differ, but for me, that's the way it should be. These animals should, their rights and their way of life should come first before any of our wants and desires, and we should most certainly respect their space and their life, not to be able to monitor them constantly by putting chips in them. Where I do have no problem with a chip is in a situation where you've either released animals into an environment where they've formally become extinct and are now being reintroduced, and you need to research and monitor that population to make sure that they're not being poached. Fair enough, got no problem with that. Or in terms of research of endangered animals where there's really limited populations and certain populations are doing better than others, and they research that and they chip them to be able to monitor them in a far better way, then track in finding them. But as far as a safari purpose and as far as what we do on Safari Live, most certainly chipping animals would feel as though we've defeated the whole purpose of it, and certainly defeated the way that we do things. Eric the Poet, you say you think there's a bromance between myself and Thamba. Well, I think it's a one-sided bromance at this stage, Eric. I think it's pretty much all from my side. Thamba doesn't seem remotely interested in me, although he has spent a lot of time, and we were talking about it. It's interesting. I would love to actually know who's had the most sightings of Thamba. I think that we probably, myself and Seb, would probably be the combo that has seen Thamba more than probably any of the other presenters on Safari Live, which is quite strange. I suppose I also do go looking for him more. I try and find him as much as I can, and if there's any track of him anywhere near the area, I certainly try and go and find him. So maybe he likes to spend time around us. He certainly is very chilled around us. So, but I think the bromance at this stage is a bit more of a one-way street than anything else. So I'll just have to take it. I'm sure Ali won't mind sharing for a while. Seb, you've got a bit of a bromance with Thamba as well.
Oh yes, for sure.
Now, I believe some of you are calling him a heartbreaker because of his marking there. Well, I think later in life he's going to be a bit of a heartbreaker. He's certainly going to be popular amongst the ladies if he becomes a dominant male. He's going to be big, he's going to be gold, he's going to have beautiful eyes, and, well, who doesn't like a tall, strapping, tanned man in the lady world? What do you think, Seb? You think the ladies are going to like him? For sure. There's no doubt, is what Seb says.
He's going to be the Casanova of the northern Sabi sand.
So Seb, in true fashion, in true French romantic fashion, has said that Thamba will be like the Casanova of the Sabi sands later in life. Well, we'll see, Seb. I think you might be right. So we'll just have to see how that all plays out. Now, Alice, sorry, I was so busy laughing at Seb that I didn't hear your question. So if you can repeat it, and I can't find the radio for FC either. It's buried under a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you can repeat the question, please. Tony, you want to know how many of the leopards we've named or that we have here at Djuma? Whew, Tony, okay, well, let's go through them. So these are all, let's go through the ones that we see regularly and that have a territory held within the Djuma system. So we've got Thamba and Thandi, first off, since we're sitting with little Thamba. Then we've got Shadow and her cub, her little female cub. By the way, still no update on Shadow. No one's found her today. I have asked around, but we certainly will keep an ear out, and I certainly will inform everybody as soon as I do know about them. So that's 4. Then we've got Tingana, Mvula. That's 6 in Chila. We've got... now I've got to try and think who else comes onto this area. Hosana Shongile. So that's 9. There's Gajima is 10 to our north. Then we've got potentially Quarantine in Kanyeni. So that's 12. Who else is around? Kuchava. 13, potentially Anderson. When we traversed Arathusa, we did also see Tiani and Salahesh, which would take us to a whopping total of 16. And that is an area of about 1,200 hectares. So that is not, if you compare it to the Masai Mara, which is 120,000 hectares, where all those lines occur, to have 16 leopards in 1,200 hectares is a serious density. It is a very, very, very high density, and we are very fortunate that we're in an area like this. And this particular winter has been super good to us. We've had really great sightings of leopard, and I thought we were going to go through a quiet phase when we didn't have Karula. When Karula disappeared, I thought maybe we were going to be in a bit of trouble, but all of those leopards have come to the party at some point. We haven't seen too many sightings of Quarantine or Kuchava or Nkanyeni since we've stopped being on Cheetah Plains, but we do have Thandi and Thamba that have really saved us and have moved into this area and have become a permanent fixture, really, of our safari. We seem to find them every few days, or at least signs of them, and so they're a really special part of the southeastern corner of Djuma, and Shadow has become a very special part of the southwestern corner, and then Hosana and Shongile moving around in the central section. So we've been very fortunate in that regard, and we've got really nice density of leopard. In real, you want to know if we've got, if the females are as territorial as the males. Most certainly. So Shadow and Thandi will clash should they come together. Same way as they clashed with their mother Karula. You know, they used to push each other around, and Thandi didn't come into this area and Thamba didn't come into this area because of that reason. Because Karula was here, she was scent marking, she was vocalizing. Both her daughters knew that this space was taken. Once that stopped, that's what's allowed Thandi and Shadow to push in and to utilize this and to start taking this territory. At the end of the day, this is a good territory to have. Lots of water, lots of prey animals. You've got the Mulawati riverbed, which is perfect leopard habitat and den site places. So you'll find that they are very territorial and they will try and push each other away. And once a female leopard pushes out her daughter, like in the case of Karula and Thandi, you'll find that that bond is severed straight away, and they will become quite aggressive towards one another in the protection of their area and their resources that they utilize. So it's not only the males in the leopard world, the females are the same as with lions. You'll find female lions will also push other female prides away. Chastity, you're wondering if leopards claw mark trees to mark territory. No, not really, Chastity. They do claw mark on trees just to sharpen the claws and keep the claws in good condition, but not really to mark territory. When they mark territory, they will rub their face, so they'll use a preorbital gland that's just underneath the eyes that marks territory on the actual plant, and then they will also scent mark by the form of urine. So either they're going to scrape their back legs, scent mark on that scraping, and that marking will then soak into the soil and be able to stay there for a longer period of time. Also, some of the urine will be on the feet, and they will then carry that forward, or they're going to spray up onto a bush on the edge of a pathway or a road that another leopard potentially would walk, and then would pick it up and smell, okay, this is where there is another leopard, and that signature will be unique for any individual that uses either their orbital gland or their urine. So no matter what scent they use, it will be a completely different signature for everybody, and they will then be able to work it out. And what's amazing is that these leopards, even though they can't communicate, can work out if it's male, female, is it in heat, is it dominant, is it young, all from their chemical signature through their organ of Jacobson in the roof of their mouth, which is absolutely astounding. It amazes me every time that they can do that. I think little Thamba, you can see, he's listening to the car approaching, so we've got somebody joining us finally this evening, which has really been quite amazing that no one's been here. Oh, hello, boy. Did somebody wake you up? Oh, you're going to put your head on the other side. You might look over his shoulder now when the car comes, as he's just done. There we go. Now, hopefully, he's going to... Oh, no, he's put his head back again. So I don't think he's going to look over his shoulder again with the light. I think he's happy to have his eyes in darkness and sleeping. Had a quick little look around his shoulder just to check what was going on. And then from there decided, nope, I think it's better in the darkness to face that way. So then put his head back round. There we go. But it is absolutely beautiful when he sits like that with his face. And that light. Now, I believe a lot of you have been getting incredible screenshots this afternoon, and well, I would imagine not only from Thamba, but from the lion kills that James has witnessed, to the beautiful scenery of the Masai Mara. It has just been a wonderful, wonderful day. We've been absolutely spoilt by Mother Nature. And particularly this cat. He's been a rock star. Take care, you're asking which leopard snores the loudest. Take care, I have no idea. To be honest, I've never spent enough time around all of them to know who snores the loudest. Tingana has a little snore that goes, and Anderson used to snore quite a bit, but I've never heard many of the others, so I'm not... which one snores the loudest. But it would be interesting to know, wouldn't it? It would be a fun fact to try and work out who actually is the noisiest of the snorers in the leopard world. But look at those eyes in the darkness. Is that not just absolutely wonderful? It is so majestic. what I might do is just, there we go, make it a little bit dark and a bit more contrasty, and Seb's focusing on probably one of Thamba's biggest attributes, which is those beautiful eyes that he has. Wow. Jody, you're asking if I've ever had the pleasure of naming one of the leopards. Jody, I actually haven't, and I tell you why. I've been asked to a few times, but I actually just haven't done it because it's not a huge thing for me. I know that it will be for a lot of other people, but for me, just the joy of actually seeing a leopard is more than having to give it a name. I feel like as long as I get privileged enough to see them and to spend time around them, then for me that's more than enough, and the gift that I get from them is being able to see them. It's not in giving them a name, so that's why I really haven't done it before. I'm certainly not that I'm sneezing at the opportunity to do it. It's just that for me it's okay not to name one and to be able to just enjoy them as an animal that's out here and that I'm fortunate enough to see. So I was involved in, they asked me to try and come up with names for Tiani, for Inchila. In fact, Inchila, Now, True Justice, you say he just this evening to be able to show all of you just how pretty he is. He is an absolutely wonderful leopard, and he is posing about as well as any leopard could pose to finish up our afternoon. Wow. We are being absolutely spoiled. The fact that he's turned around, he's looking at us, big, bright, big eyes, pink little nose. Oh, you are a special cat, little Thamba. I think we can all safely say that he has given us probably one of the best leopard sightings that we have seen of this particular animal in a long time. Certainly can't think of one that's topped what I've had this afternoon. Just in terms of where he's lay out in the open the whole afternoon. We've seen him looking at birds. He's been curious. He's been busy. It's been a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. And I believe Lou in the Mara agrees with me. Well, Lou, you must have had a fun time in FC this afternoon because, well, you've seen the most incredible lion hunting. You've got a leopard over my shoulder at the moment that's posed beautifully. So it seems as though it's been a good day at the office today for all of us involved. I'm sure Seb's had a fun day as all. We had this. There we go. Incredible, according to Seb. Now, it is that time of the day where we are starting to wind down for the evening, unfortunately. But tomorrow, I'm sure, we'll still be out and about once the storm gets gone and moves away. I'm sure that they'll be continuing moving around there. Is that right, Alice? They are out tonight, aren't they? I think they are out tonight. I'm sure they are. They're out most nights, and there's lots of action going on there, so make sure that you keep an eye out and you watch what's going on in the Mara because, well, like I said, it's just been so incredible to see what's been happening that side. But you can see little Thamba, I think, is going to reposition himself, maybe move on. It is that time of the day where we are going to say goodbye. And I'm sure James and Brent and Lou and the cameraman up in the Mara would love to have said goodbye, but they are being smashed by a deluge second to none. So from myself and Sebastian, we've had an absolute pleasure, and I hope you've enjoyed little Thamba as much as we have, and we'll see you on the Sunrise Safari.